Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I'm out on one of my winter walks. It's actually autumn, but it feels like winter. We're getting slowly closer to winter, and I'm continuing today my walk on the Monarch's Way in West Sussex. Now, you may remember that I did a walk the other day past Findon Place. If you were watching, I'll put a link on the screen to that or in the description. Down there is Tolmare Farm, where I left myself at the end of my last walk. And today the aim is to walk up to Blackpatch Hill. This is on the South Downs in, as I say, West Sussex. Blackpatch Hill is actually, if I just climb over here, you'll see it just behind me. That's Blackpatch Hill, that beautiful ridge that's in the sunshine. Now, unfortunately for me, and also for you, I think the weather is going to change. We may be lucky, but it's forecast rain and black clouds. So I've come out nice and early, and I'm heading down a farm track towards another track which will take me up to Blackpatch Hill. And in front of me you've got the escarpment of the wonderful South Downs, the chalky South Downs, which I love and adore, and there is nothing better than to get out and go for a good stroll along it. That's Long Furlong that you can see on my left there, with the buses just going up in the distance there. That's a stretch of road that takes you from the A24, the main sort of London to Worthing road, and then there's a sort of bypass of Worthing to get down to the A27, which is the sort of coastal road. Anyway, the aim is to crack on down this little lane and enjoy some of the early morning and slightly cold countryside, it has to be said. Also, on my right here is the farm, Tolmare Farm, and it must be a dairy farm. There's a lot of Frisian cows in the fields. There's also sheep as well, so probably a mixed livestock farm. So let's press on and see if we can beat the weather. Well, I'm already slightly worried. I've just gone past a sign back there that on the path it says, "Beware of the bull." Now, of course, I don't think there is a bull on the path, certainly not on this sort of unmetalled road, but you know, there's the Frisian cows are here, and presumably if they say they've got a bull, it means they have got a bull. Anyway, we're leaving the cows behind and we are heading towards some sheep now, which are grazing. I don't know when they take the cattle inside, or if they do. I'm not a great expert in any shape or form on farming practices, and that's an area that I would like to find out more about. If they take the cattle inside during the winter, and what do they do with the sheep? Do the sheep graze all year round? I suppose they do. They've got their woolly fleeces on, and then in the spring, zip, they all get shorn. This is the Sussex South Downland. The South Downs, of course, range from Eastbourne in the east and then to the west right over to Winchester, and it's a great stretch of chalky hills. Traditionally, and by that I mean for the last few thousand years, farmers have been grazing animals here and living and existing in the soft rolling hills, of course. But it's only recently that intensive farming has encroached the South Downs. And when I say intensive farming, I mean that there was a need during the First World War and the Second World War to feed the nation. And it's incredible to think that at the First World War we'd become, just prior to that, we'd become more reliant on food from overseas. And then, oh, look at these lovely sheep here. Sorry, I just interrupt myself just to show you these. Oh, there's they're scatting away. So we started to have to dig up and start feeding ourselves, start growing our own crops again. We'd become, as I say, reliant on overseas. Well, after the First World War, things sort of went back to normal. The Great War, the war to end all wars, everybody thought that was it. And we became even more reliant on overseas food. In fact, at the beginning of the Second World War, we were importing 2/3 of the nation's food needs. And so suddenly, when the Germans were now targeting our convoy shipping with our food supplies, it was a great way for them to have us on our needs. And our needs soon changed, that we had to start growing our own crops again. Just coming up to some Frisian cows here, feeding. Early morning food, I guess. And then the weather ahead of me doesn't really bode terribly well, but we'll persevere as best we can. And out on the hilltop here, you've got the sheep that are lit up by the sun with that slightly darker sky. So going back to what I was saying about during the war, there was a huge amount of work that went on to dig up and start to plough the South Downs during the Second World War so that we could feed our nation. And then I think thereafter, because we had rationing after the war in the early 50s for quite some time, we were still having to grow our stuff. One of the great sights, I think, on a walk are these beautiful old-fashioned gates. This one, as you can see, is a little rickety, but it does its purpose, and they're part of the landscape. I prefer those to the metal gates, although I don't have a great difference of opinion really on the two. I just think it's lovely to see that sort of, it's not architecture, is it, but that sort of structure on the landscape. It just, if you're out walking and sometimes you don't take a map and you think, am I got permission to be here, that sort of authenticates that that's where walkers can go, and it's fantastic. And it's great, I think, that the farmers maintain the walks. Most of the farmers, you know, maintain the public rights of way, which is fantastic. I'm losing the light now. It's a beautiful crop. I don't know what they've got in, some sort of winter crop, whether that's just to put nutrients back into the land or whether it's actually a crop that they're going to harvest. I'm not sure for later on. These paths, I know for a long time, were inspected. I think that's probably the right word. Inspected by the district councils. Rangers would come and do this. They would make sure that the gates were in good condition. They would make sure that the paths were on the land, and I think they still do it, but dwindling staff and cutbacks is probably not at the moment the most important thing on the council's agenda. But it's very important for people like me and other walkers to ensure that they've got the access to the land. And at one point I did think that would be a job that I would love to do, just to get out into the fresh air and walk all the lanes. And in a way I sort of feel I could do that with these videos, to get out and walk much more of the forgotten footpaths. We've still got, whilst the sun is now completely vanishing, we've still got some of the leaves on the trees, which is fantastic. The autumn colours are still here. I think autumn lasts until almost mid-December. We've got another farm up there, and there's a caravan site, and then you make your way up to Blackpatch Hill. And on Blackpatch Hill is a trig point, and that was what I was hoping to get to, but the weather is just turning a bit bleak. So what I will do is get up to this point where there is a gate and say thank you very much for watching. I will come back and we'll continue our walk along the Monarch's Way, and then we'll take the detour up to Blackpatch Hill. If there's any places in Sussex that you would like me to go and do a walk and explore, or you've been on one and you have a favourite walk, I'd love to hear from you. It would be really interesting. So with the autumn colours fading into the darkness here, I will say thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, goodbye.